famous LIR.com, 927LIR.com, and YouTube. I am John Kalaboukas, the Bouk, with my friend Paul Zubulake, Zoobie. So we were off for 1 week, and there is so much to talk about in the NFL, Major League Baseball, college hoops, but we have to start off with the NFL. A lot of moves today, quite a few.
Yes, yes, we are speaking with you guys. We're taping on Monday, March 10th, and this show will get posted after that, of course. So just to give you an idea, this is day one of the legal tampering period. For some reason, why the NFL just can't start from the Monday, and they have to play these games. But they like it, John. It gets more attention, more people talking about it. Yeah, so we'll definitely hit around the league. And we have a new quarterback in town, John. And as we have been talking about for weeks post the debacle of 2024, get ready, folks, for a nice 3 to 5 year rebuild because that's where Jet fans are heading.
Listen, I was happy to hear that we signed Justin Fields because that's who I wanted, and I thought we should get him, and we got him. So a little bit. The good thing is he knows Garrett Wilson. I mean, they played together for 2 years. So when they asked Garrett Wilson, he was very polite and happy that his friend is going to be throwing him, hopefully, the ball quite a few times this year. But Paul, I wanted to ask you something before we get into all these signings. Can the NFL stop with this whole mirage of, okay, so the signing period starts on Monday? How are they making all these deals if they have not been talking to these players all along? I mean, you might as well say the entire NFL has been tampering for the past couple of weeks. I mean, these deals don't come up overnight in 5 minutes.
John, yeah, I mean it's a little bit of a drama as I mentioned, and they like to bring drama into their league. I don't get too caught up in it. I think, as I said, they should just start it on Monday, let it go. But you are correct; these contracts are not blinked upon, right, and created and reviewed. So there is, and again, they have staffs, and there's tons of people working on this stuff. So yeah, it's just part of the deal. The good news is that we're here, and it's fun to talk about because this is the first step of many for these teams to either get to the promised land or just as I mentioned earlier, John, it's about a rebuild because I'm going to put it out right now that a year from now we will be talking about the draft in 2026 and who the Jets are drafting. Because folks, I'm sorry. He has some ability. They probably should have selected him over Zach Wilson in that draft.
Yeah.
But he is flawed, John. And by giving him 30 million guaranteed, and it's being reported that part of this whole thing is that he's basically the starter without really a competition. And I really think that Tyrod Taylor in a real competition probably would beat him out. And we're probably going to see both of these guys playing and probably some sort of draft pick late in the draft now because the Jets are in a complete rebuild, John. And I've been saying this. And if you're a young fan, you're all excited because it sounds great. But for us old guys, John, they are basically telling us right now 2025 is a bridge year because Justin Fields is a bridge quarterback. And can he handle week 2 when he's inevitably struggling because it's going to be a new system in a new team? And when the fans are raining boos on a team that has not made the playoffs for 14 years, it's hard to sell rebuilds when you're in a streak like this. So, of course, it's all going to be about we're going to be competitive and we're going to go for the playoffs. That's what it's all about. That's what they're going to tell you. But when the reality hits, will Aaron Glenn be able to keep it together on his weekly post games during the week when they're getting questioned why they're not going to make the playoffs again?
Yeah.
So, John, that's where this is headed. And if you're 25 years old and you're a Jet fan who basically has spent their whole life rooting for a team that stinks, they can wait. They have a different outlook than the old timers. I'm sorry. And it's just, to me, it's just going to be more of the same. Now, I will say, because we're going to talk about over the next period of time before the next season starts, the complete build of the team, John, right? Because it's not just about the first day of free agency. It's a combination of who you're going after right away, who you're going to get on the next wave, and then obviously who you're going to bring in your draft picks and what your strategy in the draft is going to be. So I'm not going to criticize the GM on day one. I actually thought he had a reasonably good day. He signed a corner. Was it Brandon Stevens
Stevens. Yeah.
from the Ravens, who is coming off of his first contract. He's 27. And I'll go back, and I did it today, John. Go to the snap counts, folks. If you don't know anything about a player and you want to know something about him, that's the first step. Go look at, the football guy. I think it's Pro Football Guys. Find that team that these players are coming from and see how much they played last year. And Brandon Stevens started basically every game and almost played 100% of most of the snaps. Maybe he got injured. It's not like I'm following the Ravens on a week-to-week basis. So they got a starting player in filling a need. So that was a nice signing. And the Field signing, like you said, John, it's kind of hard to argue because they don't have any options.
Right.
So in the bottom of the barrel options that they had, he was obviously, the best choice. And he will bring some excitement because he can run, John.
Yes, he
And
can.
and we've talked about that in the modern NFL, you have to be able to move. Will the fan base, the organization have the patience for this guy to see the light? Because he's I hate to say it, John, he's no different than Zach Wilson right now. So we'll see. Not the same sort of player, but from a results and experience and
Right.
what he's
Right.
done in the league is what I'm talking about. And so the Jets aren't that bad because the Dolphins ended up signing Zach Wilson today.
It's amazing that they just keep getting this money. I mean, he got $6 million. You told me six.
Yes, six.
Wow.
And
Wow.
Justin Fields got guaranteed 30 million, John. So that only pays off if he plays for 2 years. I understand the going rate for quarterbacks, obviously at 40, 50, 60 million. But he's a bottom of the barrel player right now in the league. He
Hey,
really is.
listen, Darnold then ended up
He
getting
got
off of
paid.
one good year, 3 years, 100 million from the Seahawks, and then you have a guy like Geno Smith asking. That's why the Seahawks got rid of him for 45 million a year. Geno Smith. Wow.
Well,
I mean,
so yeah,
it's
don't get out.
incredible.
Yeah, don't go around the league yet, John, because there's a
No,
lot to
but we're
talk
talking about
about.
quarterbacks, how much
Right.
they're getting. It's
Right.
ridiculous.
But
It's
just to put it in
ridiculous.
perspective, but they're still giving Justin Fields 30 million.
Yeah,
And if
yeah,
he crashes and burns in 1 year,
I know.
he's going to be gone and they're going to have paid him 30 million. So this is not without its risks. I expect, like I said, I expect Tyrod Taylor, he's going to play this year, John. And this team is going to be between 4 and 7 win team, and we'll see how it plays out. Maybe over time that will change, and when they get on the field is when it really changes. Because who really cares? Even when we think, John, about what record they're going to have, how many months in front of the season. But this is what I've been talking about. This is a pure rebuild,
Yeah,
folks. Three to
yeah,
5 years. And again, as what I had mentioned earlier, is that because they have all these good players, their core coming up for new contracts, they really got their work, in front of them because they've got to decide on the fifth year option, and that which will Wilson and Gardner and Johnson will probably all get. Will they strategize that if Brees Hall has a good year, that he gets franchised because he doesn't have a contract for next year?
Right.
Do they pay Wilson now and let Gardner prove that he deserves to get paid? And the same thing with Johnson coming off an injury. He's going to have to prove it. So, and that's the scary part because if you talk about other positions quickly, we talked about quarterback. At cornerback, J.C. Horn, which 90% of the audience is going to be like, who is that? Who plays for the Carolina Panthers, one of the worst team in the league, signed a huge deal, John, at corner, right? So you're talking about, are they going to pay Sauce Gardner this sort of money after last season? I don't think so. So this is what this is what I want to see. How do they strategize it, right? Wilson has got to get paid because you need playmakers, right? They have him. He's a quality player. He has to get paid. So there's going to be all these decisions coming up over the next few months. And this is where I'm going to look at and I'm going to treat these guys the fair way. And if they're doing a good job, I'm going to say they're doing a good job. And if they're doing a lousy job, I'm going to say they're doing a lousy job.
Yeah.
So right now, today, they're not throwing money around, which is typical of a team that's rebuilding, John. That's a
Well,
rebuilding team.
but they actually did end up signing Sherwood, which that was
Right.
one that you really wanted them to sign, and they did.
Right. So you can put that in the good category too. Now I'm a little mixed on Sherwood because it keeps the undersized inside linebackers with him and Quincy Williams. I think that was one of the big reasons why this team can't stop the run because they don't have big inside linebackers. So now it's going to make it imperative for them to get a defensive tackle, which they may address in the draft, John, which is another really sore spot for longtime Jet fans where
Oh
they would
God.
draft defensive linemen in the first round, where then they end up playing 70% of the snap count and you want to lose your mind. So this is why, John, it's a combination of a lot of different things. So, so with the Sherwood signing, you're signing your own. This is something I've constantly complained that the Jets don't do. They don't sign their own guys. All right, they signed their own guys. So I cannot quibble with that. But they did pay him a decent amount of money. So he's going to have to
Yeah,
play
he has a
better
30.
than he was. Yeah,
Yeah, he has a $30 million guarantee. He has three. They gave him 3 years, 45 million. I
right,
mean,
right. So that's right. So that's 3 years of right. If he plays through, or reality, if 2 years at 15 million a year, that's how it breaks down with these contracts, folks.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm not going to get crazy, but there is this feeling like, oh, Justin Fields is the best option of the bunch, and it's like when I hear that, that is just you're just facing facts that you're not going to have a good season. And after 14 years of not making the playoffs, the longest streak in professional sports, again, that is hard to sell to your fan base. So it's going to be fascinating, John, how this plays out for the Jets.
Yeah, what did you think about Moses not re-signing?
No problem there. He's 34.
He's
He's
old.
hurt a lot.
Yeah, right.
He's
He's old.
34. John, I
He
think one
got
of
a
the
3-year
biggest,
deal. He got a 3-year deal from the Patriots.
John, that's one of the biggest stories if you're a Jet fan of this free agency. The guys who were Jet players getting paid. I mean, obviously
Look
these
at
other
Reed. Reed
GMs,
too.
DJ Reed got paid. Javon Kinlaw, John, got 30 million guaranteed from the Commanders with GM Adam Peters, which everybody and their uncle were saying was like a genius. He signs Javon Kinlaw to 30 million guaranteed. Did they watch any of the film? So isn't it amazing?
It's
So I
crazy.
think it's the whole NFL is basically saying, oh, it's all about the Jets coaching is the problem because DJ Reed with the
Yeah,
Lions,
yeah,
who lost
yeah.
Carlton Davis, is replacing with DJ Reed. This is a supposed Super Bowl team. I'm sorry, I like DJ Reed as a player, but he's an undersized corner. He's a good player, but let's face it, for the most part, right, John? He got picked on more than
Oh,
Gardner, and you
100%. They
saw
ate
him
him alive.
chasing a lot of guys last year, right? Just chasing guys, and
They
he
ate him
hustles.
alive.
and he plays hard. I'm not knocking the guy; he's not a bad player, but to give him like premium dollars and Kinlaw, it's beyond belief. And then, like you said, and then on top of that, Morgan Moses at 34.
I
The,
you know,
it's it's crazy.
that's I
So
had
good
a
for them.
you know I what I was really stunned about him is I'm saying to myself, wasn't he almost ready to retire or something? I mean, he's old, and he got 3 years from the Patriots, and then you got another one, another malcontent that got paid was Hassan Reddick.
Yeah, right.
He
He's
got
the other
one
one,
year,
right?
$14 million from the Bucks. I was like, what the hell is going on with these guys?
That's the other one, right? Thank you for bringing that up. So Hassan Reddick, after again, it still in the end cost him a lot of money, but nobody was giving him that long-term deal. So he's doing it year by year, 14 million for a guy who literally did nothing last year.
Did
So
nothing.
the ex-Jets. So John, this is definitely something to watch going into next season. Is to watch how these ex-Jets work out. And when Morgan Moses is on IR or whatever, on the injured list week 3, we're going to be shaking our heads. So again, this is
Well,
another thing that's good that the Muji and company are seeing the light on certain players. I think it's a good thing for the most part.
there's actually one more that we forgot that we released him was Devontae Adams got 2 years,
Oh,
$46 million from the Rams.
right.
I
Well,
mean,
that's
23
not
million a
that's
year. That's a lot of money for him. I
it's
mean, the good thing is
fascinating,
that,
John.
huh?
No, it's no, they signed Adams and gave up. They're giving up on Cooper Cup.
Yeah,
Cooper Cup's going to be a free agent.
I'll take
John,
him. I'll take him.
look at the veteran wide receiver list. There's a lot of guys on that list. So just go
Well,
check it
yeah.
out.
Who else? There was another. Was it Debo Samuel
Well, he got traded. He got traded. Yeah, that went to the
to the
Commanders. So
Commanders, right?
we're fifth rounder. Yeah. See, and
Yeah,
then Joe Tooney got traded from the Chiefs,
right.
an All-Pro player at guard, to the Bears for a fourth rounder. So, John, it's amazing that a guy like Debo Samuel went for a fifth round pick.
Unbelievable.
80% of the fifth rounders don't even make it in the NFL. I'm making that number up, but it's not a huge amount of them make it. Maybe I'm talking about over their career, not the first year. Of course, all the fifth
Right.
rounders make the team. But look at the history of the fifth round, especially with the Jets. So yeah, no, it's kind of crazy, right? You're like, okay, oh, we don't want to pay him. It's like, well, you got to pay somebody. So, it's the whole league,
Well,
and
I mean, look at what Barkley got too.
yeah,
Barkley got 2 years, of 41 million, and then the biggest one at all that he deserves it, but it's still an insane amount of money was Josh Allen. Got
well,
6 years, 330 million, 250 million guaranteed.
right,
Wow.
worth every penny, no
He's
doubt.
worth every penny, but it's
So
still an insane amount of money I mean, you're talking about what, $55 million a year? Wow.
right. Well, and
This is
then
big money.
so John, since we're talking about ex Jets, and of course the most intriguing ex Jet, who is, I believe, at the moment we're speaking, like I said, on Monday the 10th at like 7:30 Eastern, Aaron Rodgers is still out there with every team mentioned recently falling through, right? From the Raiders to the Giants, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Mike Tomlin. Is that where it's ending, or is it
I don't
literally
know, man.
nobody wants Aaron Rodgers? Any thoughts?
Well, why do you say that the Giants are not considering him?
I think that's still out there. You're right.
Okay.
I
Okay.
never thought that was even remotely possible. I don't know who put that out there. You're right. Technically the Giants are still an option. You are correct.
I can't see Tomlin taking someone as selfish as Rodgers. I mean, I just can't see that.
All
But
right.
listen, I could be really wrong on this one, but I don't
Do
know.
you think that the Giants would be in? We haven't spoken since this is all came up with Rodgers going to the Giants, which I just heard that I laughed. I just can't believe that Joe Shane and Brian Daboll on there really at the edge are going to go in that direction. Because we talked about this too, John. They're drafting the quarterback if they can get him,
Oh, 100, oh,
or
100%.
and that basically secures them probably for another year because the rookie quarterback is, you have to work with the rookie. You don't want to give Daboll a rookie quarterback. What happens if they actually play well and Ward looks okay, but they still lose a lot, which they
Right.
probably will? You're gonna be stick with Daboll, right? You're not gonna fire him then. So the safest choice for them is the quarterback. Now, ever since that absurd game that they won against the Colts, which put them in this bizarre position where they actually would have to trade up. Because and what are the Titans thinking? Like they're not drafting a quarterback. Who the heck's playing quarterback for the Titans? So I mean, it's just I
They're
guess you
all,
could even throw Rodgers' name in there. I guess.
I mean, you think about it, is okay. So you take Aaron Rodgers, okay, as a what? As a 1 year
Yeah, well,
stopgap.
definitely
I
one.
mean, I mean,
Yes.
seriously, what? I don't know why the Steelers are being mentioned at all. I just knowing Tomlin and the way he operates and the way the Steelers operate, this would be so out of the box for them.
Well, the
I
thing is,
really
John,
can't see him.
right?
But
But they have a
but
veteran
who
team.
is their quarterback now?
That's the point. They don't have a quarterback. They have older players on defense that are really good. Now they brought in DK Metcalf to
Right.
put him with Pickens. I can't see that lasting. So maybe they're going to move Pickens during the draft. I think that I just can't. I mean, I would never have gone for Metcalf. So I almost think that's almost out of their personality too. Is a guy like Metcalf who is a bit of a crybaby as well with I'm not getting the ball. So yeah, just it is. I don't know, John. He may just be leaking this internally himself and his agent on his side to drum up some thought that somebody wants him, but maybe the reality is actually nobody wants him.
Listen, the Giants actually did something well within their personality. Signed your favorite quarterback, Tommy DeVito, back with the Giants.
Right, which I always laugh when they say fan favorite. I'm like, do they ever actually talk to any Giant fans about this? I'm nothing against DeVito, but he's a third string quarterback.
Yeah,
Fans
yeah.
like fans want their teams to win games. And if anybody hasn't noticed, despite their history being obviously a lot better than the Jets and the better than most franchises, the
Yeah.
Giants have struggled mightily in the last decade, pretty much the end of Eli's career. And since then, and let's face it, even at the end of Eli's career, they were not very good. So yeah, and I guess that's the other quarterback that's out there being mentioned left and right is Daniel Jones. And then also, I guess Rodgers was mentioned from Minnesota, right? It's another spot
Yeah, yeah.
that he could pop up with. And that argument is the same. They got J.J. McCarthy, and they're not going to play the kid. That makes no sense either. So it does almost feel, John, that a lot of this Rodgers stuff over the last month, I think, may have been produced by the Rodgers camp as opposed to the other side.
I believe that too. Yeah, I definitely believe that because again, I just can't uh, I can't put it past some of these teams that really don't have quarterbacks. I mean, like having him as a stopgap. But like I said, the Steelers are not one of them. Again, I could be wrong, but it's not really in their personality to bring a guy like him in.
Oh, actually, one of the guys, Mac Hollins, crazy man from the Bills, just signed with the Pats as well, the Patriots. So I have to. It's so funny, John. I got to bring this guy up because he was known on the Bouk and Zoobie show. And by the way, before we get to him, thanks again, as always, right, John, to our loyal fans. We are, kind of dropping every other week now in the off season. We will be dropping a special episode next week. John and I will actually be at the same location, so that should be fun. It's going to be kind of a March Madness show, but it's going to be open to a lot of different subjects. So we'll have probably a longer show. So we will be doing two in a row. So again, you want to, for the people who listen to our show on Spotify.com and you want to check us out on YouTube.com, please, you got to search the show. It's the only way, John. Bouk and Zoobie, Bouk, Zoobie, Zoobie. And of course, at the world famous LIR.com, 927LIR.com, where they are spinning the tunes on internet radio. And as always, John, I always like to mention, please subscribe, like the episodes, throw some comments in. We're doing a show next week. You want to hear about a topic, you have a question, throw it in the comments on YouTube. We really appreciate it. But yeah, it drives that algorithm when you like the episodes. And, we're word of mouth show, folks. So, as always, tell your friends.
And one thing that you forgot to mention
What?
is that it will be a live show with call-in.
Well, it's going to be call-in. I don't think it's going to be
Oh,
live, so we just don't want
okay.
to mention that. It's going to be a little technology-wise. It's always a chance, but yeah, it's probably going to be a posted show, and we hope to have some of our old guests call in.
Okay.
But yeah, a live show. I don't know, John. I don't know if we're ready for that at the Bouk and Zoobie show with the
Okay.
lack of marketing and sales and production crew. But anyway, we're going to post the show probably. But
Okay.
anyway, I want to,
Okay.
as always, thanks everybody for checking us out. Also, John, yeah, I wanted to mention this guy because he was known as Williams, the guy from the Eagles. I couldn't remember the guy's name, right? So he's a defensive tackle. And I had mentioned him after the championship game against the Commanders and pre Super Bowl and post Super Bowl. And John, his name is Milton Williams, and he's going to the Pats, and he got a huge contract, John, a huge contract. So the Eagles winning a Super Bowl has made many an Eagle a rich person. Josh Sweat
Yeah.
signed, should have been the
Yeah.
MVP with the Cardinals, and then Zach Bond re-signed with the Eagles. So they did cut Darius Slay, who actually is an old corner now, and then he got signed by somebody. I saw that already. So again, invading the good rosters who have free agents available makes sense. The Bills, right? The Chiefs, the Eagles. John, I think the Giants have been awfully quiet. I'm trying
Very,
to like.
very, very quiet.
So I thought that they would be actually active on the whole idea that they have to have a good season. So is this they're setting up for this quarterback situation in the draft? It looks like, John. It really looks like that. They're going to move heaven and earth to try to get Cam Ward. Hopefully for them and their fans, he slides to 3. But they're going to try to get him. I think it's plainly obvious the Giants are going to do that.
And like you said, they've been very, very quiet. No free agents signed. I mean,
They
again,
re-signed Slayton, Darius
right, right.
Slayton.
That's about it.
That's pretty minor.
But going forward, I mean, again, we just started, but usually you see all these flurry of signings within like the
First day,
first 24 hours, right? After that, it
100%.
slows down.
And then
Uh,
there's a new wave. The first wave, they've been silent, I believe, unless I'm missing it. I'm going to check right now.
one thing that I don't know if you saw this headline about how they really getting rid of the chains in football now, and they're going to do everything electronically. And
Not everything.
it just so happens after they do this after they messed up the Bills.
Got to correct you. Got to correct you. First of all, the Giants did sign Paulson Adebo, a corner. I think he played with the Saints,
Okay,
and Roy Robertson Harris. So we have a hyphenated guy. So I don't know much about him.
okay.
I think he's a D lineman. So I'm sorry, John. Sorry to interrupt you on that.
No, just again with
The
the the
Oh,
electronic.
the 1st and 10. All right, let's
Yeah.
explain this. Folks, don't get your hopes up because this is not what you think it is. This has nothing to do with marking the football. All it has to do is once they mark it, they don't have to bring the chain gang out. So it's going to be something very similar to tennis where they're going to show you this supposed drama, John,
Right.
and it's only going to be dramatic if it's this much. Because I talked about this last preseason when they were testing it out in the preseason, and I was watching a Jet preseason game, and they did this technology where they put the ball down, John, and it took them like 2 minutes. And the next thing you know, they show the screen and it showed that he got the first down by half the football. So you're sitting there thinking, I waited 2 minutes to see that it was something obvious that you could almost do with the naked eye. So they're going to obviously be a lot faster during the regular season because I can't imagine they're that inept. But that's all it's going to be, John. So the Josh Allen play is not going to change
Oh, I won't. Oh,
because
okay, I misunderstood.
it's not where they're marking it. The chip is not in the ball. All it's going to do is once you set the 1st and 10, just like the yellow line, they're going to when you put it down, and that's the official thing, the yellow line, their version of the yellow line, then they're going to instantaneously tell you it's a first down. Now, the NFL, by the way, folks, has been switching where you see how many games do you see where they just wave it on? Like you think like, oh my God, is he short? Did he get it? And next thing you know, some guy comes in, the lines judge comes in and they push it. So it's like, okay, that's what they did to avoid doing a lot of measurements
Right, right.
because they just waved it forward. So it's going to be interesting to see if they still wave it forward. But John, it doesn't solve the problem.
Oh, I misunderstood it because that's the way I interpreted it. I was like, all right, so finally we have something on the field because they kept saying, oh, the chains are going to be obsolete, but they'll still have it as a backup.
Right. The measurement of the 1st and 10, not where the ball is placed. That's what you
Okay,
want, where the
okay,
chip's in the ball. So they know exactly, like if the chip breaks the plane, like say if you have the first down, here electronically, then you have a chip in the ball and the ball hits the line, right? That means upstairs, irregardless to where they put the ball, it's a first down.
hmm,
That's what you want, right? So you want the technology in the football. So when it actually breaks the plane of this electronic eye and its own eye breaks it, and automatically they know it's a first down, right?
hmm.
That's what they need. That's what not is not what
But
you need,
that's not
folks.
what they're doing. Okay.
Unless I have this completely wrong. I hope anybody again in the comments correct me, John. I don't think I'm wrong. Anyway, so there's so much. Like you said, we don't have the time, folks, to go through all the NFL stuff. Who signed right today? I don't know if there's something popping into your head, John. We took like the
No,
high points. I think there's tons of other signings everywhere in the league. You kind of just worry about your division. So I mean, right now, John, the Pats are kind of like going all in right now with Vrabel. They want to improve big time. They got Drake May already, so they're ahead of the Jets. The Bills are obviously ahead of the Jets. The Dolphins and the Jets are now shifting into the bottom part, and the Dolphins' fate is going to be with Tua, obviously, because if they're going down options like Zach Wilson as their primary backup, so that's everything is in Tua's hands. So that's what's the way the division is lining up, if you ask me. Now the Pats have a lot to prove just because they sign a bunch of guys. That doesn't mean anything, but their coach is a lot better. The
yeah,
quarterback should be a lot better in year two. So I'm looking. I mean, I think the Jets are solidly the fourth place team in that division.
easily, easily.
All right. So the Giants are and the Giants. Let's face it, Eagles and the Commanders. I mean, they're going to be top teams. And then you've got Dallas, who still will be pretty competitive. They're always got a competitive team at least. And the Giants are looking like the last place team. A year from now, I mean, we're probably talking about new GM and coach for the Giants and a new quarterback for the Jets, and probably a new quarterback for the Giants unless they draft Cam Ward, which I think, again, that's going to decide the whole franchise's the view of by the team, by the fans of the team. That's going to determine everything for the Giants because if
Mhm.
they get the young QB, people know you're going to struggle, but at least if there's hope and he is a good player, you've got a lot of hope for the future. And that's like I said, that's where the Pats are, right? It's the same model. Get the quarterback. Now the Jets are now kicking it down another year, most likely. Do they shock us and take a quarterback at 7? I highly unlikely. They probably take one later, but who knows? So we'll see. Like I said, you got to look at the whole composite of the franchise building, and we'll keep we'll keep everybody posted.
What do you think the Giants are going to have to give up to move up?
That's scary. They only got to go from 3 to 1. In theory, you could argue they only maybe have to go to 2 because you just don't know with the Titans. But the bottom line is, John, if the Titans like Cam Ward, they're just blowing smoke and they're going to take him. Same thing with the Browns at 2. So the Giants aren't going to be able to trade up. See, this is what's going to happen, right? So Joe Shane's going to be feeling out the Titans, and if the Titans are eager to trade, all right, why are they eager to trade? They're not taking Cam Ward. So if you
That's
call
right.
their bluff, they're not taking Cam Ward. Then you got to worry about Cleveland. So Cleveland is another team that desperately needs a quarterback. I know, Deshaun Watson restructured his deal. They need a quarterback. It's the same argument. So if you call them and they're willing to deal, they're not going to take them. So I think that these teams are blowing smoke. I just can't believe Tennessee at 1 is not going to take a quarterback when they don't have one. They cannot bring Will Levis back for another year.
No, no, no,
I
no
mean,
way.
as a backup, maybe they can, but as
Yeah,
the
no way.
primary starter, then
No
you're on
way.
like another year to disaster. So, John, again, the Jets will be unfortunately probably fighting. They're going to be closer to the worst team in the league than the best. And I hope I'm wrong, but that's the way I see it. So I don't know. Enough of the NFL, John. We got to move on, right?
Yeah,
There's so
yeah.
much to talk about.
Well, there
Jeez,
is plenty.
so as always, I'm jump ball, John. What do you want to do next?
Actually, there were some moves made in uh, in hockey. If you want to talk hockey a little bit,
Well, I was
I, I
definitely
mean,
going to
I mean the
talk
big, I
hockey.
mean the big, I mean the big headline right now is Ovechkin going after Gretzky's record here. How
Yes,
far off is he now?
I think it was like 10 or 9 goals, but honestly, I don't have the latest numbers. Yeah, that's somebody that we haven't mentioned all year, and that's a pretty amazing because I thought that was like, I think a lot of people thought that was like one of those records that would never be broken. I think it's 892 or something career
Yeah.
goals. Um,
Actually,
was it?
Gretzky 894.
It's 894. Okay, so I think he's within 10. Ovechkin, yeah. And yeah, that's the
I think he
story.
has like
Yeah.
8 or 7 to tie him.
Well,
But
I'll tell you.
I read
Yeah.
something on Ovechkin. You want to talk about a career because you know what? I mean, he's good. He's been around for so long. Listen to this. I did not know this.
Okay.
So he's had 19 seasons over 30 goals,
Yeah.
13 seasons over 40 goals. I mean, this guy's amazing. I mean, at his age, and he was hurt a little bit this year, if I remember. This guy's amazing.
No,
I mean, the
okay.
longevity, and
Yep.
he's been a great player. And you really don't.
100%.
I mean, this is not really being publicized that he's coming so close to Gretzky's record. It's like,
Well, John, when you're breaking the immortal record of Wayne Gretzky and you reside from, let's face it, he is Russian, and that definitely brings down the media looking at it. I hate to say it, but yeah, the purists obviously know the guy is obviously one of the greatest players of all time. No question, first ballot. They should just and hockey players. Hopefully, the Hockey Hall of Fame is unanimous, unlike the ridiculousness of the Major League Baseball
please.
guys. We'll get to MLB later. I'm glad you brought it up. We'll be quick with it because, John, this is a disaster in the tri-state for hockey. The Devils even are swooning going into the playoffs.
They are.
The Rangers had the last 2 games where at home against the competition they need to beat, lose both times, one in a ridiculous overtime on Saturday, and they started the game at 12:30. John, I mean, my God, against the St. John's game. On top of it, I had a personal thing with my son I had to deal with that I had to go to. So I miss everything. I can't take it. Saturday at 12:30 for hockey makes no sense. And then they come back on Sunday night at 6 p.m. Thank you very much for that great start time. So They screw the fans with these start times. They lose twice. John, the Rangers are in big trouble. They try to make a lot of moves. They're making moves for next year on top. It's a combination of both. Chris Drury kind of hanging on by a thread. Pete Laviolette hanging on by a thread. I don't know how they survive if they don't make the playoffs. And then on the island, I mean, even in worse shape than the Rangers, with a GM president Lou Lamoriello who's been around forever. John, I mean, this is another one. I mean, is it time for Lou to step down?
Yeah, I mean, he was it was really weird with Nelson that he's busy negotiating up until the trade deadline with the guy, and when he realized that he couldn't make a deal with him, he said, "Okay, we'll just get rid of you."
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
traded him. Yeah.
and they traded him, but they're saying that they got the better of that trade because they ended up getting a young kid
Yes,
that what is he, 20, 21 years old.
they
That,
got a top prospect,
yeah,
but it's like you're right. So it's the right thing to do. But again, the Islanders, like you're kind of close, and then you trade one of your best players for a prospect who's not going to contribute
right.
this year. So you're basically telling your fan base we're not making it. And I don't criticize it because that's how you kind of rebuild your team by trading guys who are going to be free agents. But just he's been around a long time, John, and it's just in the tri-state area because there's so much going on sports wise. And which, let's face it, hockey does get lost in the sauce when you have three franchises on top of it.
Mhm.
And the Islander fans, unfortunately, as our friend Lieutenant Dan had mentioned, are in a new arena, not in their spot where they should be. So my point is that their fan base can be very fickle because it's like, something, we're not winning. I'm not going to the border of Nassau and Queens to go to a game. So I don't know what's going to happen with them, John. But yeah, the NHL in New York, tri-state,
Yeah.
is looking pretty darn bleak. So I'm glad you brought it up because we're definitely going to talk about it. But let's talk happy stuff if you want. I'll still give you the choice. I mean, it's
Well,
not
I did
happiness
it.
with the Knicks, I guess, unless you got more hockey. Go
Well,
for it.
no,
Go
no.
ahead.
There's one thing about hockey that
What?
I was very surprised when I saw this. You know that whole Four Nations
Yeah,
tournament that
of
they
course.
had?
Yeah.
The last game had 16 million viewers.
Six. How much? I'm sorry.
Six, 1-6,
1-6.
16 million. That's huge in this day and age. I mean, especially for hockey.
Yeah.
I mean, for any sporting event, 16 million is huge.
Well, yeah, right. Outside the football playoffs and the Super
Yeah,
Bowl, of course.
yeah.
But well, good for. I mean, I'm happy that it brought a lot of eyes to hockey. I don't know if there's sustainable eyes. It's good for the Olympics for hockey. That's going to be good because I think you need all the teams, not just the four. So Ovechkin can play, and Panarin can play, and Igor Shesterkin can play, if you get what I'm saying. So it'll be good to have all the teams there. Yeah, I don't know. I we talked about this. I didn't get like so blood and guts over it. I'm not into this Canada U.S. rivalry. I don't know what's going on. I know it's politics, but I never like look at the Canadian. I mean, I've
Yeah.
been there so many times. You have family up there. I never look at us as just
No.
one group, and it's like to me, it's not a rival, but unfortunately, our politics are making it. I don't know, John. That's kind of my thought.
Yeah, no. Listen, it didn't bother me that Canada won in overtime, or I think it was overtime they won.
It was right. It's
Yeah.
overtime, but let's face it, the U.S. won the other game, so I don't know. You have this tournament where they split. Basically, they were even Steven to say one. Okay, they won the game that allegedly counted. Okay, what I don't know. The first one should have counted for more. I guess who
Right,
cares?
right.
But anyway, it's good for hockey. I'm always happy when people watch hockey. But unfortunately, in the tri-state, it's not happy times. So you want to go more drear with the Knicks, or you want to go happy days with the Red Storm, who again, I'm sorry, Zuby Etchafor. I'm getting a little upset, John. Zuby Etchafor is now becoming a household name, and Bouk and Zoobie is, he's being kind of forgotten. So I'm getting a little jealous of Zuby Etchafor.
Hey, he got voted most improved player in the Big East. He just got the award. So,
Congratulations, well
and
deserved. He
and
plays
him and
with
RJ
such heart.
Lewis ended up being in the first what do they call it? First team in the Big
All Big
East.
East, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I saw somebody had him on the national side, second team, all in the country, John, second
Wow,
team for R.J.
wow.
Lewis. Yeah, now it was like one of the website guys, but still, I'm glad to see him get the recognition. It was his kind of brick, as we'll call it, that came off the rim, and what a great play by that I said that Kadari Richmond. He's like that old guy at the park that you always wanted on your team, right?
Yeah,
He may not look the best, but that guy is unbelievable. He knocked that ball away, right? And then Wiltshire had the presence of mind to shovel it to Zuby for the buzzer beater. You must have loved that. I
yeah,
missed it live.
yeah.
So
I saw it, and it just reminded me of how they beat Providence. That's the way they beat Providence.
right. So
So, and even Zuby said the same thing. It was almost identical.
that
And
is true. Yeah.
and you have to give, I have to say, Marquette's a good team. They're a good team. They have the
They're
same
tough.
problem
Sure.
we had. I mean, the St. John's didn't hit any foul shots in that game, and neither did Marquette. I think Marquette missed like 12 foul shots, and St. John's missed 10. I
Again,
mean,
huh?
it was. I'm telling you, the foul shooting to me is a very big concern in any tournament that they're going to be, whether it's Big East or NCAA, and they have to defend the three. I just don't get how they're assuming that these people are going to miss because you face a good team that's a good shooting three. They better get out there and defend them. And again, the foul shooting really, really worries me about this team. It's going to come at the most inopportune time for them to start missing.
Well,
It's
we got yeah. So the conference tournaments are starting pretty much in tomorrow. There's been obviously some of the minor conferences have already started, and actually some of them have ended. There are some of the teams that are automatically in. We'll definitely get much more into that in next week's show, our preview, really kind of for March Madness. So I don't want to spend too much on college hoop, John, nationally. But great for the Johnnies. But I just again want to point this out. Still 17th in the net, which is the ratings that the committees do use. So there's still probably a 3 seed. Even with the 17 net, they'll do better than that. I mean, if they win the Big East tournament and they beat Connecticut and Marquette again, you would think they have a shot for a two. So they probably do have a shot for a 2 seed. But in the tournament, it's going to change because you got to be, if you're, and I watch tons of college hoops. The Big East was a little down this year. How is this going to play out at the conference level when everybody's in there, John? It's going to be great to watch. I mean, the team's got great heart. And the other part, I guess we should mention, right? Davion Smith did not play, right? He
he
did
did
not
not.
play again. So the
No,
game that we were at where he got hurt, right, with his shoulder, it's obviously not healing because he's continuing to play. John, he does not need to play in the Big East tournament. He should not play.
no. There's no reason. There's no
So
reason.
we'll see a week. It's going to be Sunday, Selection Sunday. I had talked about them being the 2 seed in the East. Hopefully they're the 2 or the 3. Doesn't matter. Yeah, so that's we're happy locally, and to say the least, John, this is going to be a
And
lot of fun.
and the Big East tournament's going to be a lot of fun because if you see the way they're bracketed, so the winner of Providence, which I think Providence is going to beat Butler, ends up playing St. John's, and then on the other side you have UConn facing Villanova and Marquette facing Xavier. I mean, these are really good games.
Yeah, of
Creighton is going
course.
to end up facing Georgetown. Again, this is the next round, not on Wednesday.
Right, right,
But the way it's bracketed, St. John's could either play Marquette. I think they're going to end up playing Marquette. I think Marquette's going to beat Xavier, and then you have UConn against Creighton, and then the winner of that. I mean, it could be St. John's against UConn in the final. I mean that
of
that
course.
I
Yeah,
mean
of
it's
course.
it's great the way it's shaping up, the way they have it. I was like, wow, this is
Right.
going to
Well,
be
you better
exciting.
hope that Providence beats Butler because Butler's a bit of a pain in the neck for the Johnnies for whatever reason. So I don't know
But
if you want to.
Providence too.
I
Providence
guess you
we
could
beat
argue that too. Yeah,
we
it's
we
true.
beat them by one twice.
That's true. That is
And
true. I'm
Butler
sorry.
too. Butler's been a pain in the neck for the. You know,
So the
everyone's saying,
Johnnies,
"Oh,
yeah,
this will be easy." It's not going to be easy for St. John's against either of those teams.
and it's not going to be easy in March Madness against anybody because that's just the way they play, right? They're
Right,
not the type of team who's going to blow somebody out. I'm not counting the first round game, of course, but
right.
after that, to get again they got to get to the Sweet 16. Um, to me personally, that's a very good season for Patino. And then you just obviously go for the goal to try to get to the Final Four, of course. But
Sure.
they have to win those two games to get into the Sweet 16. I think that's something that to keep the momentum going for that team, that's what they need, and hopefully they'll do it.
Yeah. Listen,
All
they,
right,
they they were undefeated at home. First time, 18-0,
no,
undefeated at home since 1931-32. That I looked at that stat. I'm like, wow. Since
they had a
I'm
great John. They had a tremendous season. I mean, they really did. But like I keep on saying, the
yeah.
Big East was down. So let's see how they do, and that's what's going to make it great. So this could, shifting over to the last of the winter sports before we get to the spring sport. The Knicks, John, just give everybody an update on the walking wounded.
Ugh.
I honestly am not up to date exactly. So where do we stand? Where are they in the playoff run right now? Would be great to get an update there. What do you got?
Well, they're ranked the third in the
Still
conference.
third. Okay.
Right, third. They will drop out of that because Brunson is going to be out for weeks, not week. It's going to be
Okay.
weeks.
And his injury
So
is what? Ankle? It was an
yeah,
ankle? What?
he sprained his ankle pretty badly because when they're saying minimum 2 to 3 weeks, you know that could easily be a month and a half. So they're bringing in Kolick, they're bringing him up. He's probably going to get some playing time. So is Deuce. So either one of them is going to have to start here.
No, Deuce is going to start this at
Yeah,
least in the
yeah.
beginning.
But
Right.
You'll see Kolick getting playing time. He's actually been doing pretty well in the developmental league. He actually does very very well. But there's so many injuries in the NBA. I mean, Irving is out. I mean, you talk about the Dallas Mavericks. Jeez, first they go after Doncic and saying, oh yeah, he was drinking beer and he was smoking with the whatever they call those things, the
The
hookah.
hookah, okay.
Yeah. So first they get rid of him. Then
Right.
and Davis gets hurt. Then you lose Irving with an ACL for the rest of the year, so they're finished. Then you have the 76ers. I still didn't understand why they gave him Embiid an extension. He's out for the year. He's done. He's going to have to get surgery on his knee. I mean, you talk about the walking wounded in the NBA. It's wow. I mean, a lot of major, major injuries this week. So, uh, the Knicks just have to get it together. Even Robinson has been out for 2 games again. And they're not saying, oh well, he has
I
a
didn't know that. Okay.
minutes limit. Okay, he has a minutes limit. Why did he sit out the past 2 games? They could have used him against the Lakers. They could have used him against the Clippers they played. Where
Right.
was
So
he?
so that's why I probably lost touch with them too, because they're out west, right? So they lost to the
Right.
Clippers, they lost to the Lakers. Did they beat the Warriors? Didn't they play them too? Or
They
no,
haven't
my
played him yet. They haven't
they haven't
played.
played them yet.
They lost to the Warriors at MSG.
No, but okay, on this trip, that's the next
They
game.
haven't played. They haven't played him yet. They're
Okay.
supposed to play Portland, Sacramento, and um, Golden State.
Okay, so they got three more out there. All
But
right. So
they may do themselves a favor. They should, if I were them, go to the fourth spot because there's more of a chance of them moving to the next round than the way they're setting up. I think they should go to the fourth seed
why is that though? Why is
because
that? You don't want them to be
they'll end
three?
up playing the Pacers.
Okay, okay. In the first round.
Right, right.
You don't want to play them. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So the
Who's
Pacers are not
technically the
good.
fifth seed then? Who is the fifth seed? Who's the fifth?
Is right now it's the Bucks.
Okay.
No, the Bucks are the fourth seed right now, so they're probably going to bypass the Knicks
Right,
for the
right. So
third
who would the
seed.
Knicks play? Is the point? My
The
point. If
Pacers, the Pacers,
no, I know, John. You just said that if they were third, so you're saying if they drop to fourth, they'll play the Pacers.
correct.
So you'd rather play the Pacers than
Yes,
the team that they were going to play. So who was
yes,
the other team? Who's the other team you're talking about? Because if they were third, they would
right,
have to
right,
play the sixth.
right. Well, at the time that they were third, the Bucks were sixth.
Okay. All right.
The
So,
Duck, the Bucks have moved up.
all right. There you go. Well,
It was the
there's a
it was the
lot to
Bucks.
get.
I don't want to play the Bucks under any circumstances in the first
All right.
round.
So you want to avoid the Bucks, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yes.
the Bucks
Yes.
is all right. So I'm glad
Yes.
we clarified that, John.
Sorry
I don't
about
want to
that.
have the fans throwing stones at you. Now, after last week, talking about stoned, you were stone silent there because John on our YouTube show did have some technical issues, folks. We apologize for those. So, people thought that John wasn't moving in for those last, 20 minutes, but we had some issues. So we just wanted to throw that out as we always try to make corrections, right, John, when we
That's
have
right.
screw ups or say something wrong. Because guess what, folks? We don't rehearse the show, and that's the beauty of the Bouk and Zoobie show. And speaking of not rehearsing, but he actually heard, he thinks about it because there's so much going on in the tri state area for MLB. Thank God we're not a Yankee fans with
Oof.
baseball with Boot.
If I were a Yankee fan, you should kiss your season goodbye. And I'm going to tell you that right now.
Oh boy, here we go. All right.
Kiss
But he,
it goodbye. Yeel out for 6 to 8 weeks with an arm injury. That was first one. Now you have Cole. He's already been told to get Tommy John surgery. He went for a second opinion. He's going to get Tommy John surgery. He's going to have the surgery tomorrow. Yankee fans, your season is over. You don't have the pitching. We all thought, okay, they got Max Fried. Rodon had a nice season. They had Yeel. They had Cole. They had Schmidt. You lost already. 40% of your staff is gone because Yale, that's going to go much more than 6 to 8 weeks. He has a pretty serious problem. He had this before. I expect it to go further. Now you're going to have Marcus Stroman, who was ready to be thrown off the team. They were trying to get rid of the guy forever. He's going to be one of your starters.
no
Yankees are in
question.
big, big trouble. Stanton, not that he's been he's very good in the postseason, but to have tennis elbow in both of your elbows and for him to say it's serious, he's going to be out for the year. I mean, the Yankees they're a mess. They don't have a third baseman. I'm just like I said, if I were a Yankee fan, just write off this season because now if you look at some of the improvements that were made by the Blue Jays, they added, Jimenez, Santander. If you want to say they added some to their pitching staff, okay. The Red Sox actually did some nice moves this winter. They did, you had Bregman, you got Crochet, a lot of different moves that they made to solidify. So maybe the Yankees make the playoffs, but yeah, it looks very, very grim for the Yankees. I mean, if they don't make some moves right now to address their starting staff, and there are some starters still out there, they better make. I mean, they're looking at Carlos Carrasco as coming in and helping them out. He's signed on a minor league deal, and he's saying, oh, when you start to hear them talk about Carlos Carrasco doing great in spring training, I'm like, man, the Yankees are really searching for. I don't know what they're searching for if you're going to have Carlos Carrasco on your staff.
Well, who
But
honestly? You mentioned some guys still available. Are there anybody that people would recognize, or this is just in deep into
yeah,
the?
it's the bottom of the barrel. I mean,
Okay, right.
a
All
lot
right,
of bottom. I mean,
bodies. Right. Okay.
the Lance Lynns of the world.
Okay.
The guys that are older.
Okay, perpetually available. Okay,
Right,
all right.
right.
Well, okay, the Yankees. You're right. I mean, it's
They're in
we
big trouble.
obviously are Met fans. We're not rooting against the Yankees. It's a shame to see guys get hurt. But again, this is something Stanton hurt. Well, shock horror. I mean, this is not that shocking.
No,
Losing Cole for the year is brutal. After, like you said, with Eel not being available already. But unfortunately, the Mets, of course, they just couldn't let the Yankees have all the bad luck. A guy, a key player for them, John,
I know.
fractures his hand swinging the bat.
Yeah, and the way they're describing this, or just making excuses and say, "Oh, this is common for major league players to break their hands swinging." And I'm like, I've never, I've heard of it once in a while, but Alvarez has had problems with his hands. I mean, it's his wrist, and it became part of his hand. He's always getting hit with a foul ball off of his hands anyway. I wouldn't be surprised that part of that was from all the foul tips he's been getting. But yeah, they're saying 6 to 8 weeks, and then they'll reevaluate him.
Right. So this is the
Which,
old Met, whatever they tell you, you add a month. Now you're right. They're already saying 6 to 8 weeks, and then there's an evaluation. That is basically they have no idea how long he's going to be out.
yeah,
No idea. Right.
basically we're talking minimum June,
Right. They don't have
minimum,
right.
minimum.
And that's a position they just don't have the depth. So what are they going to do? They're going
They're
to
talking about bringing in Tomas Nido back. They're trying to get him from the Tigers. He signed a minor league deal with the Tigers to be the backup for Torrens.
That's not good.
Or look, McCann is a free agent. They're saying, oh, maybe we'll look at McCann was a disaster for the Mets. Why would you bring him back? Or Yasmani Grandal, who's older than Stones here. I mean, the guy's old.
Well, John, they're going to have to do something. I
They
mean,
have to do
Thomas
something.
Nido. Oh my God, that's something. That's like anyway. That's
But
just going
a
to bring
couple of
bad jokes. But anyway, go
well,
go.
and when you're looking at all these different injuries too, the Mets, and I texted you about this. Iglesias signs with the Padres on a minor league deal. Okay, Madrigal is out. You'll never see this guy again. He'll never step foot in a Mets uniform. Then you had Quintana signing a 1 year, $4 million deal with the Brewers. You telling me that you couldn't use this guy at $4 million to be on your staff? I mean, again, I wasn't a fan of Quintana, but man, you need these starting pitching. I mean, they made a couple of decent moves. They signed this guy Jose Urena, who was a pitcher for the Marlins. He has great stuff. He Maybe they could do something with him, but he throws hard. This guy throws really, really hard, nasty stuff, but has problems with control. He could be part of your starting staff. Then they acquired this guy Canario from the Cubs, who, again, another guy who has a lot of power. He was supposed to be one of their top prospects 3 years ago. And then you know how these top prospects are. They come in, they're hitting 35 home runs in AAA. They come to the major leagues, and they barely give them a shot to play. So they they acquired him because they released him for Justin Turner. They signed Justin Turner. I said, okay. So you gave up on a 25-year-old guy for a 40-year-old guy.
That
Okay.
says a lot, John. Though that says a lot.
Yeah.
So, but what position does he play?
Outfield. He's another
He's an outfielder.
outfielder.
Well, yeah. So quickly, just go around for the fans because I guess also Brandon Nimmo is not expected to start the season right at this point. It doesn't look like. Or so, what's our give us your starting nine quickly. Go around the horn and tell everybody what you're looking at this year as your
I
starting
mean,
team.
you got to have Torrens behind the plate, Alonso, McNeil, Lindor, Vientos,
Okay.
Soto. Either Siri, probably Siri's going to be in center field, and you might just put Taylor in left field at this point, or And as DH, you have Marte. Um,
Who's also got some injury issues, right? Isn't he
yeah,
all?
it's his knee. Yeah, he's playing tonight. They want to test him out.
Okay. And they have and
And then they
Winker.
have
They have
Winker, and then they have Winker.
Winker. Winker.
But
Right.
Siri, like I said, watch
How's he
out for
look?
this guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, he's playing an excellent outfield. He's always had power, and he's showing the power in spring training. Now, whether that translates to doing well during the regular season, this guy could hit 200 and hit 20 home runs. But if that's what you want out of that position, power and defense, but no average and a lot of strikeouts, that's been his past history. But this guy is a really, I don't know, he looks good to me. He really looks good to me. I
Good.
mean,
Well, that's good to hear, John. We
I mean,
like
I've
to
seen,
hear
I
those.
saw him with the Rays. I mean, when he played with the Rays, like I said, he's an excellent outfielder and he has tremendous power. But let's see. I don't know. He
Doesn't
might
hit
be.
for average. He's not an average hitter. All
He
right.
might
Well,
listen. He
yeah.
might be a surprise this year.
All
I mean,
right.
the guys that I think are going to be pleasant surprises are Siri, and I think McGill's going to come through this year. I think McGill is ripe for having a good year because he has the stuff. He has it. I think he's going to have a very good year, McGill.
Well, so right now he's part of the rotation, right? So quickly on this,
100%.
so
Yeah, I don't
starting
want
rotation.
Blackburn.
So who's pitching opening day? Is it going to be Senga? Or have they announced it? Is it going to be Peterson or what's going on?
You know,
One of the two?
um, I think maybe Peterson.
Okay.
Holmes
So
is Holmes has looked fantastic.
really,
Oh my God, he pitched. He had 70 pitches. He built himself up to 70
all
pitches.
right,
He
got it
struck
to
out eight
70.
guys last yesterday. I
All
mean, he
right.
looks really good.
All right. Well, I
Can we
was
give
a
us another
doubter on
five?
him, but I could be wrong there. I don't know. Hopefully I am because they're going to need him, John.
I mean, could they give him? Can he give them more than 5 innings?
He's going to have to.
Well, the thing is that he has to understand that he should just have the guys hit the ball on the ground. Because if he's striking out guys like this, that means his pitch count's going to go way, way up. I
Right.
mean, he'll be out of there before 5 innings if he strikes out too many people.
All
Because
right.
they're missing his changeup pretty badly. He looks
All right.
good. His changeup looks great. So we'll see.
So right now they pretty much have decided the roster, right? Is there any other intrigue left here, or is Beatty making the team? He's making the team,
Beatty's been playing great too. Yeah,
so he's making the team. Is my
I think
point.
he's going to make the team. I
And
think
then he,
I think Acuna is going to be sent down.
okay.
Um, Everyone else is pretty much. I mean, Mauricio is not making the team, so they're going to send him down.
Is he
They,
recovering at least? What's Mauricio's situation? Is he like
that,
he's
yeah,
recovering, right?
he's recovering, but they want him to play in AAA.
No, of course, but it's technically good to go at the beginning of the regular season in
Correct.
AAA.
That's
Okay.
right.
All right.
That's right.
Because he's going to be one of the first call ups, right? I mean, you would think if they're struggling and he's doing well, right, he would be one of the first guys up.
Right. And but what I'm a little concerned about is who is going to be the backup at shortstop if something happens to Lindor.
Right.
They're having Beatty take grounders at shortstop. I'm like, I don't think he's ever played shortstop. He's played second base, he's played third base, he's played a little bit of outfield, but I don't think he's really ever played shortstop.
That's why I think Acuna is making this roster, John. I don't see how he doesn't, but you got to have a real backup. That's why I was asking. Is Beatty? I mean, he's
Beatty's
your
been
back.
ripping the ball off the cover. I
No,
mean,
I'm not
he's
saying he's not making the team. So he makes the team, but he's primarily a third baseman. They're kind of putting him at second. So that's they're only going to carry one backup infielder. I mean, you would almost think that Acuna is going to be on this team because somebody technically has to
maybe,
play
maybe,
shortstop. But
yeah,
I
maybe.
guess you could argue that Lindor is going to play every inning. I don't know if you want that though, right? We don't want him breaking down like he did.
No,
Not that he
please.
broke down, but he did get hurt at the end. Yeah. So all right. So you're still extremely optimistic. We are not making predictions. We're definitely going to have our over unders for both teams. I'm sure that Yankee over number has
Oof.
plunged over the last week. I don't watch it daily. So yeah, what else you got in MLB?
Really quickly, Dave Roberts ended up getting an extension from the Dodgers starting in 2026. Highest paid manager in baseball, $8.1 million a year. So he
Oh,
got a
right on.
4 year, $32.4 million contract
Yeah.
extension. So he'll be their manager until 2030. Uh, President Trump is looking to give Pete Rose a pardon. So they're saying if he does that, that Major League Baseball will now say he's no longer on the ineligible list. I don't
Oh,
know how that's happening. I don't know what one has to do with the other, but I keep hearing this. And the last thing,
yes.
20 years later, Mo Vaughn has admitted that he took HGH to extend his career because of his knee. And everyone's saying, well, why is Mo Vaughn even saying this 20 years later? Because it turns out that they revealed that he was part of the report they had. He was one of the players named in
Right,
that
right.
report. And he
Okay.
said that he used to inject HGH into his knees because we knew he had bad knees. He was a big
Right.
guy, but
Ended his career with the Mets, right?
he
That's what
ended,
happened.
yep, yep, yep. It was one
Well,
of
John,
those crazy trades that somehow the Mets made, and he did okay, but yeah, he was shot. His big thing now is he does government housing. He's been pretty big into that, Mo Vaughn.
is that
So
what's going on with Mo Vaughn? Well, you're doing something for Pete Rose after he's passed. I don't know what that does for anybody, but I guess for his family, there's something there. I don't know if that leads one thing leads to the other. The president has probably a little bigger fish to fry right now, John, than worrying about Pete Rose.
yeah,
So anyway, I'm going through last, and I do not see much of any major news unless you're a Steeler fan who are losing Najee Harris. Looks like he's signing with the Chargers. So yeah, it's going to be nonstop, folks. We will be talking about it next week in detail, and we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, right, John?
oh, yeah.
So we hope everybody, of course, checks out that show. Not to mention watching this show. And like I always say, please like, subscribe. It helps us out. So who do you got to thank?
As always, thank you to our producer Zach Zubulake and to our loyal listeners and viewers. Keep the feedback coming. And also thanks to our community partners, Ronald McDonald House, Kids in Seats, and the Jackie Robinson Foundation. See you next week.